Hi, everyone, and welcome to Return to Work After Brain Injury. We're just going to wait maybe uh, a few more seconds just as people trickle in. And I apologize for my voice. I've been battling a cold, and today it decided to sort of give out on me. My name is Zoe Follis. I'm the project lead for the Return to Work program at the Ontario Brain Injury Association, as well as the occupational therapist on this program. So, our program is funded in part by the Government of Canada through the Canada's Opportunities Fund for Person with Disability. And today we're just going to go over sort of three main pieces of our program. So, one, we're going to review all the return to work programs that are available at Obaya, the eligibility criteria for the programs, and how you can apply. So, we have two return to work programs at Obaya currently. We have our return to work program, which started back in 2024. And then we have our new program, which will be launched in June, which is our job readiness program. So just as a bit of a review, our return to work program, it's for employees and their employers. So again, this was launched in May 2024, and the program offers a online training for the employee, so the individual who has sustained a brain injury. And it's a self-paced online training to prepare the individual to return to work after their ABI. And for our programs, ABI, so the acquired brain injury, can be anything from a stroke, concussion, brain tumor, traumatic brain injury, or non-traumatic brain injury. We do not, our program is not funded for neurodegenerative, so MS or ALS, Parkinson's, Huntington's, those types of diseases. The training is a 90-minute training for both the employer and the employee. And the one for the employer is to help them better support the employee. If the employer is agreeable to participate in our program, the individual who has sustained the brain injury, so the employee, is able to get access to OT and social work services. And it's really the design of the program is really a collaborative approach between the multidisciplinary team that they gain access to, so myself and the social worker, as well as the employee and the employer to help with an easier transition. Our new program is called the Job Readiness Program, and it is for job seekers. So, again, it's for individuals who've sustained an acquired brain injury. It's going to launch in June 2026, and it's offering an 8-week virtual job readiness program. So that's sort of how our program starts and what the basis of our program is around. And then individuals who participate in the job readiness group will be eligible for a paid work placement of approximately 12 weeks. And then they will also receive access to an employment counselor, a social worker, and an occupational therapist. So, again, this program is for individuals who do not have a job to return to after sustaining their injury. And the group is mandatory. So, again, to gain access to the possible paid work experience, the employment counselor, the social worker, and myself, they have to participate in the group. And the goal of this program is by the end of their time with us is to have paid employment or be in like a paid employment that could be casual, part-time, or permanent. The program is funded for 1 year, and the first group will be held in summer 2026. So, our first group, we're hoping to launch on Tuesday, June 9th to August 4th. And then we'll have another group that runs on Thursdays from June 11th to the end of August 6th. And then we'll have a second group that starts in the fall of 2026. And then our final group will run in the winter of 2027. So we have sort of created this chart as a way to understand how clients fall into each program. So again, our new program launching, which is the Job Readiness Program, the individual is seeking employment, so they currently do not have a job. They can be on ODSP or AI, but they cannot be on short-term or long-term disability. For our return to work program, it's for individuals returning to their pre-injury role. And it's really designed to work with their employer and the individual returning to work. Eligibility criteria for both programs, you have to live in Ontario. For the job readiness program, you need to be eligible to work within Canada, currently looking for employment, and you have to have the ability to participate virtually. Again, for our return to work program, live in Ontario. You're returning to your pre-injury role or at least pre-injury organization. Your employer needs to be agreeable to participate and again, able to participate virtually. Both programs are virtual programs, primarily because of our funding and that we are a provincial-wide organization. So we actually cover the entire province, and just from a logistical perspective, we cannot see people in person. The key activities, so the things that they will be accessing and eligible for the job readiness program. There's that 8-week job readiness skills group. They will have access to specialized employment services, so OT, social work, and employment counselor. And finally, some will be able to access a job placement, which does have a wage subsidy associated with it. And it'll be approximately 12 weeks. For the return to work program, they get access to an online training program as well as OT and social work service to help support them return to work and their gradual return. So, how do you apply or how do you get your clients registered with our programs? Both programs are self-referred through our website. And primarily the reason is in the application, the individual will have to complete a brief self-assessment, ask some demographic questions, as well as a few specific questions that are designed by the federal government that are required for our funding. Individuals in the job readiness program will require medical documentation that outlines that they're able to return to work and any physical restrictions. Those are only for the individuals who want to access the job placement. So people are able to apply for our group and attend the job readiness group, skills group. If they have not received medical clearance, that is fine. They just won't get access to the specific job or work placement that has the subsidy associated with it. On our website, so if you go to either through the Obaya site itself, under services, you can click on the drop down menu for return to work, or if you go to our direct website, which is braininjuryandreturntowork.ca, on our homepage, you will see three distinct buttons. And when you select support for employees, that's for the individuals returning to their pre-injury place of employment. And then they can fill out an application through there, or support for the job seeker, which is our job readiness program, which is for those who are currently not employed seeking employment. So those are sort of our two streams. Our new one probably being the most of it, or the greatest interest for everyone here, because for a lot of people, they do not have a job to return to. And the very unique thing is now we have job placements with wage subsidy. Both programs are of no cost, and we're trying to make this as accessible as possible for everyone. And then, so the biggest thing for everyone here is you can go online with your client and help them register. You could do it with them together. Um, it's just not, it's a self-referral because in our application, they are required to complete a few self-assessments for us prior to registering them in our program. The other key piece is just because you register doesn't guarantee you a spot in our group coming up this summer in June. We'll sort of look through how many applications we get and see if they are more appropriate for the program starting in June, or whether they should be moved to our fall or our winter program. And that is the crux of our two programs. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to put them in the Q&A, or and Lauren will sort of read through them and answer any questions. She will read the questions aloud and we'll try and answer them to the best of our ability.
No questions yet, Zoe.
Okay. This will also, it's obviously recorded and we'll send it out to everyone so they have access to the slides and information.
Okay, we have some questions.
Okay.
So what are the job placements that will be available?
So the job placements will sort of be based on obviously the clients and the locations. We're looking at a few options. Nothing is finalized yet. We have an employment counselor who's starting to work with us, who has quite a large network of employers, and we feel it'll range from sort of larger, I'm going to say retail corporations such as Home Depot or Canadian Tire, to then more smaller organizations that are more willing to take on someone who has a brain injury. So it will vary sort of depending on the needs of our clients and sort of what area they're specifically looking to enter into.
Right. Okay, can you remind us of the criteria for folks who are on ODSP or OW or LTD?
So LTD, they're not eligible for the job readiness program, and that's from our funders from the federal government. That was sort of an exclusion criteria. They would be eligible because they technically would likely still have an employer. They would be eligible for our return to work program if they took our online training and if their employer was agreeable to take the employer portion of the online training. Then they would get access to OT and social work as well. So that would be for the LTD folks. For the ODSP and OW, they can access our job readiness program. And it would just be a conversation about how their wage subsidy would impact their OW or ODSP payments, because depending on their income. And then again, the goal of this program would be that they could get some sort of paid employment by the end.
Thank you. Is there currently a wait list, and what will the capacity be for each group?
There is currently not a wait list because our registration just opened on Monday. So the capacity is, we're hoping for June, two groups of 10. So it would be a group of 20. And then for a wait list, we would sort of figure out if they would be a candidate for our fall group or our winter group. Again, we do have flexibility. I think we'll see how much interest we get and how many applications we get for June, but we do have flexibility in the appointment to sort of adapt to a wait list as needed.
Great, thank you. If a client has done a different supportive employment service, such as Goodwill Industries, can they access this too?
Yes, they can. Yeah.
Is there a time since injury or limit as to who we can refer to the program?
No, so it doesn't matter when the injury occurred. Um, the only real medical requirement we will have is that they will need a doctor's or medical documentation that they are eligible to return to work, and any physical restrictions they have if they're going to go to one of our work placements or job placements.
And how will it be determined who is receiving a job placement and who does not?
It'll be based on a variety of factors. One, it'll be based on assessment. So from a like the OT, employment counselor, and social work to see how ready they are to start employment. So to give you a bit of a continuum, the group runs basically from June to the end of July, beginning of August. And then the goal is for everyone, for those individuals to have work placements come September, October. So the design of the program is they run through the group. Then for, a couple weeks, they would be given access to OT, social work, and employment counseling to help prepare them for work. And then in September, they would begin their work placement. So it would be based sort of on assessment and their readiness to start work come September.
And how do we know when a person is ready to be referred to a BIAS RTW program? Are there any specific criteria?
I think from depending on what your background is, like the biggest thing as I think of with brain injury is sort of from the more moderate to severe individuals who've sustained more moderate severe, making sure their behaviors are manageable, that they can be redirected. Are they able to follow through from with like an appointments? Like, for example, with reminders, would they be able to show up on time and be able to get there, whether it's with a caregiver or a support person? Um, Another big one is energy. Would they be able to tolerate going back to work? These work placements aren't necessarily full-time. They can be a couple hours a week. So just figuring out, would they be able to tolerate, working for 3 hours at a time?
Great. And can you just share a brief reminder of what the referral process is for?
Yep. I'll just quickly go back to share my screen. So if you go to our website, which is braininjuryandreturntowork.ca, You can also access it through the Obaya website on the drop-down menu where it says under services, it will have return to work as an option. And we have three sort of squares, which are active buttons. And if you are an individual returning to work or returning to your pre-injury role, you would go under support for employees. And if you're someone who's seeking employment, so someone who has sustained a brain injury but currently not working, we go to support for job seekers. And individuals may need support filling out the application. Unfortunately, it is quite lengthy due to some of the questions that are required from our grant perspective.
Right. And can you access the service if someone is simultaneously getting OT support through their insurance? Like, can they be working on work readiness with your OT and other goals with their community OT?
Generally, my rule is not to double dip. I think too many cooks in the kitchen is very confusing, especially with this population. What I would say is they could access our our group and the employment counselor and the social worker. They just wouldn't receive OT from myself. I just think it's one, I do think there is something as like overloading on therapy. Like their days would be so full with other services. And if we're both doing the same thing, it just doesn't seem productive for that individual to be accessing two OTs who are both focusing on return to work.
And you've spoken to this a little bit, but how do you determine if clients are appropriate for the job readiness program? You did mention a few things. I wasn't sure if you
I
wanted
would say have them apply because we will do our own assessment as well. And even if they're not necessarily fully appropriate for it now, we may be able to say, okay, why don't you work on these five things or connect with their current team if they're in the private system to say these are sort of the things we feel would be best beneficial to work on prior to joining our group in the fall. I think it's definitely worth applying because even if they don't get access to a job placement per se, attending the program or accessing the 8-week program and getting access to OT and social work would still be beneficial for the individual
to.
and getting them one step closer.
And will the program be offered ongoing past 2027?
Good question. Um, we don't know. Um, we hope so. We're working really hard to meet our deliverables. And part of the reason why our application project process is so lengthy is to gather as much information as we can. So when we go back to apply for further funding, we have lots of evidence to demonstrate why this type of program is important, specifically surrounding the brain injury population, because having specialized individuals who understand their injury is very beneficial.
And is there a lower or upper age limit for participants?
You have to be 18 years or older.
And is there a potential for a participant to be too high level?
No, no, no.
Um, so those are all the questions we have. There was a request to just, if you could please summarize the two programs quickly for individuals who were late.
Yes.
And they apologize for being late.
No, 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 that's fine. This is probably just the quickest snapshot of our program. So we have our job readiness program, which is for individuals who are seeking employment. So they are currently not employed. They can be on ODSP and they can be on EI. They need to live in Ontario. They have to be eligible to work within Canada. Again, currently looking for employment or employment is an act, return to work or getting back to employment is an active goal. And they're able to participate virtually. The key activities that are in our job readiness program are the Job Readiness Skills Group, which is an 8-week closed group, access to specialized employment services, so OT, social work, and an employment counselor, as well as in not all necessarily 20 individuals will gain it, but there is opportunity for a job placement, which has a wage subsidy associated with it. And then our return to work program is for individuals who have a job they're returning to. So they're returning to their pre-injury role. And a key part of this program is having their employers agreeable to participate. And by that, it means they need to take an online training, which is about 90 minutes. They also have to live in Ontario. They're returning to their pre-injury role. Their employer is agreeable to participate, and they're able to participate in virtual programs. And then their key activities are access to an online training program, as well as access to OT and social work.
Right. Thank you. There is another question of, will we continue to support these clients while they start working?
Yes, so we will, our program, we haven't, again, this is where we have a lot of flexibility in our program, but ideally they would start in June and we would be with them probably through their 12-week job placement. So approximately 6 months. Yeah. They won't necessarily be receiving like one-to-one therapy through their entire time, but we can be a touch point person for them. So, sort of how the program is designed is they have group, then they get access to one-on-one therapies, then they go into a job placement with support from our team with like less one-to-one services, maybe more touch bases or an as need basis, and then they would be finished in our program.
All the questions we have that have come in.
All right. Thanks so much for joining, everyone, and have a lovely afternoon.